So today I want to just warm up. Got my window open because it was just raining earlier, and I like the sound of rain. Now the birds are chirping. I don't know if you could hear them. Just gonna start with pen. I haven't drawn today yet. I just woke up recently. We could say that. Had some coffee, and I'm using the graphite reference pack that they sent me. The one titled Female Academic Poses. These are really great. I have a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of packs from them, and really high quality, great poses, good anatomy in terms of, like, you can sometimes see different ranges of different anatomical features, like, muscles to, folding of fingers and hand. It's like there's so much subtlety that you can find in their reference packs. So anyway, just gonna have that on my screen up there, which you can't see, and I can't really show this stuff because it's not censored, but yeah, I don't really have anything planned to talk about, although there were some topics that I wrote that I could cover. The Daily Swamp. Right, okay, so this is just a cheap pen from Office Max, Zebra. All right. So what does that mean? Well, I think what I was thinking that day when I wrote that, let's say here is a timeline of your day. Here's where you wake up, got the sun. Hopefully you're waking up when the sun is up and not when it's setting. And here is the night. That's my moon. Whoosh. So, I mean, let's say you want to do a drawing. That's your drawing you have in mind, or a project, or a bunch of drawings or sketches, concepts, whatever. And, this is inside your idea, whatever. That's a light bulb. I'm good at drawing. And I'll get to the drawing of the warm-ups in a moment after I explain this. There's something that happens where that's the timeline for your day. Here's a timeline of what it's like to start drawing. Your first 45 minutes to an hour-ish has a certain nature to it. And as you go, maybe have a break in there somewhere. But after you warm up, your motor controls are kind of synced in with doing yard work out there. I'm gonna close the window. So your first 45 minutes is where, like, the warm-up period happens, and once that clicks, the good stuff happens here in the 2-hour mark, or the 3 or 4. That doesn't mean you have to do it all in one go, but somewhere in the day, this part, I call it the swamp, has to happen. Now, if you end up, this is noon, if you end up drawing here, like, before bed, not bed, but let's say, you put off drawing till, like, later that night, and you want to do this cool, fun stuff, and you try to do it, but you haven't warmed up, this part will end up happening here, and if you're trying to do this, you'll get really disappointed because you haven't done this yet, right? So ideally, you want this to happen early in the day, because that will allow time after it for these cool things to happen. And, you know, sometimes in the warm-up, you might do some work that really speaks to you, and it's wonderful. But I would argue that warming up and getting used to making shapes and lines and curves and getting not just your muscle memory kicked in your fingers, but in your arm too. So, you know, being able to do an ellipse, and this is like I've locked my wrist and fingers and I'm doing that. That's one motor control. Another is using your wrist to draw and then using your fingers to draw. So like there's different parts of your arm that you can warm up in this phase. And the reason I call it the swamp is because it's like you have to step through it. It's like you have this journey. Let's do a little bit of perspective here. And this represents your day in perspective. You start here, and there's this initial trench of swamp. It's like spikes. You got, you know, dragons in there and things that are uncomfortable. God, what are they doing out there? So, in order to get to the good stuff over here, where you're doing, you know, beautiful things and landscapes and characters and portraits and graphic design, whatever's over there, you have to first step through it. There's no way around it. There's no way over it. There's no way under it. You have to go through it, and it's this warm up. So what do you do for warm ups? Well, you could do circles for like an hour. That's fine. You could do cubes and rectangles and blocks and boxes. You could shade. As long as your hand and your arm is moving, making marks on something, digital, iPad, paper, crayon, ketchup, whatever, as long as you're doing something, it gets the part of your brain synchronized with your hand in such a way that you have a very strong authority on your expression. So, you know, when I wake up, like I can't really draw a figure as, I guess, maybe not accurately. I don't know if accurate's the right word, but there's little nuances that I just forget overnight, and it might be proportion, right? It might be that if I draw a face, I kind of do like the first face being a cliche one that I normally do, and letting that be the warm up kind of just gets it out of the way. So it gets cliche out of the way. It helps you become familiar with proportion, and yeah. I wasn't intending to explain that, but so for me, this will be my warm-up phase of the day. Again, I just have reference open in front of me, and I'm just gonna draw and see what happens. Guess I'll make it bigger. And when I'm warming up, I'm not trying to make it good, and I'm being, in this case, just loose with gestural lines. I could sit there and be constructive about it and measure where the legs are, but I just want to move the pencil or the pen across the paper, and I'm just looking up and down at the paper. Like I already drew the head way too much this way, and the reference, her head is actually over here. That's fine. It's just a warm-up. And after the warm-up, you just start to feel more free and loosened up. I'm not concerned with proportion. I'm not concerned with accuracy. Just something to make marks. No pressure. And you might put pressure on yourself to try to make your first drawings good, but like I would give that up. so that you can actually make good drawings after. And it's a little bit difficult because I got this camera in the way, so that it looks like what I'm seeing. And to me, I mean, it's not a bad drawing, but it's certainly not anything compared to what I'm capable of when I've warmed up and gotten all this motor control stuff out of the way. And maybe in the past I would have been reluctant to show this part because, you know, it's not flashy or the best work. But I'm trying to give up on curating only the good. And I understand, like, some might say, well, you know, these are what you're drawing. It's really good, and it's kind of unfair for you to say it's not. And it's not that I'm saying this is bad. I've been making art for more than 2 decades now. I've been painting digitally for almost 20 years. Digitally and traditionally. I think that's ought to be mentioned. Someone asked me that on Instagram recently, but really? You're gonna do wig whacking stuff now? Yeah. Welcome to my life. Anyway, yeah, so as I'm saying, it's like what you're seeing is a combination of over 2 decades worth of study and practice and shortcuts and stuff. Now that I said the word shortcut, I'm worried that people are going to be like, all right, so give us all the shortcuts. What is it? How do I do it? To which I'd say, yeah, I mean, I have tutorials and explanations on breakdowns and shortcuts, but I'm reluctant because in order to be able to do a shortcut, you have to learn how to do it slowly first. Like, let's say this represents a timeline of drawing a figure or anatomy or a painting. Like, there's a lot of time and experiences and ooh and aha moments. There's ups and downs. And what a shortcut is taking all these mini experiences and then compiling them into a smaller amount of time. So it's like, that's the best way to develop your skills. It's through careful practice and focus. There's a fun channel that I watch called Two Set Violin, as well as Davey 504. But they have this funny idea where it's totally true. If you can play it slowly, you can play it fast on violin, or if you can play it fast, you can play it slow, something like that. But the idea is you can't do something fast unless you've learned how to do it slowly first. And it might seem obvious, but we tend to want to jump into wanting to do things quickly first. If you draw it slowly, you can draw it quickly. If you can't draw it slowly, you can't possibly draw it quickly. That's just insanity. And the reason I'm warming up in this sketchbook is because it's kind of like a cheap $5, $4.99 reduced price from Hobby Lobby. That's too bright for the camera. Anyway. Since I know for a fact that the gestures and warm-up stuff is not meant to be something I fully enjoy or intend to be good art or whatever, I'll just do it in a cheap sketchbook. And I know there's an idea out there where a lot of us will buy a really nice, expensive sketchbook. And for me, that would be the Cottonwoods. They're around like $20 online on Amazon. But we won't draw in it until we're ready. Until I'm good enough. And yeah, it's very common. There's nothing wrong with that. I think just at the very least, warm up and then just draw on it. You know, you don't have to be a master, full professional artist in order to start drawing in your favorite sketchbooks. I really wanted to have the windows open, hear the birds and the rain, and yeah. I know there's a lot of content out there about how to draw figures and gesture and flow and motion and stuff. It's really useful and helpful. But when you're in the warm-up phase, throw everything out and just do anything. There's a lot of techniques, I know, but that can come in when you've warmed up. Because I think the warm-up phase ought to be, without any pressure. Without any thoughts of, oh, I have to post this, or, oh, this guy said I have to use this kind of shape for whatever, or, oh, I'm not even using reference. Like, just forget it. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. All you got to do is make marks. I just happen to be using reference this time. Sometimes I just make circles and floating cubes. I'm sure the proportions are off here. Yeah, the legs should be longer, but it's just a warm up. I don't care. So if we compare my initial warm-up, you know, it has the information there. I got the circles and like saying, hey, yeah, there's a face here, arm. But the placements and the proportions and the relationships are definitely off. But as I started to warm up, things started to feel like they're calibrated. And it's like when you have a target in some kind of game where you have your missile lock. Like here's where you're supposed to aim, and you have automatic targeting. It's like when you wake up, it's like you start with this, and then you try to bring it this way, and you go a little bit too far, miss the target, then you get a little bit closer, and then it locks on. That's kind of what it feels like to warm up. It's like that's the target. You kind of just have to calibrate all your muscle memory and motor controls. Yeah, so just keep that in mind, especially if you start drawing and you're immediately frustrated with your work. That's why. I mean, maybe it's also because you don't have the technical practice or something in your tool belt yet, but you know, this is at least one factor as to why you know, our first drawings aren't exactly the best. I mean, okay drawing, much better drawing. Much better drawing. Then I went to bad again, but up here it's decent. It's just way out of proportion. My excuse is that I'm looking at the sketchbook in perspective, then peeking at the camera. So whatever. Anyway, gonna go ahead and stop doing this and then move on to drawing with pencil in a sketchbook for the next video. All right, thanks for watching.